Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the Passion of the Nerd discussion of Doublemeat Palace. This is a bi-weekly stream we do talking about Buffy and Angel with members of Patreon in the $5 and up tier who would care to join with Jack, Josh, and I and talk about some of your favorite things. I don't know why I went up high. But in 2 weeks, what are we talking about in 2 weeks? I forgot to look it up beforehand. We just looked it up. Birthday, and then 2 weeks from then is Dead Things. Wow.
That'll be a fucking roller coaster.
Yeah. So if you ever have any interest, this is a great group, and we get a lot of repeats, but it's always nice to see a new face. And there's a link down below. And did I forget anything, Jack?
No.
Be nice to each other.
Be nice to each other, please. Yes. And
if you've got any issues, tag me or my dear friend Josh here, and we will help you. But we are monitoring chat, and yeah.
And when we're done, I'm going to switch back and keep editing the Spiral episode guide. So hopefully that will be up tonight.
Hey, Ian, I thought we were breaking for
left.
the holidays.
Oh, are we?
I mean,
I think I forgot to discuss that with the group. I think Jack, Josh, and I discussed that together.
Yeah.
Currently, the schedule we have right now is, and this is negotiable because this is your guys' group too.
The 21st is the next one, which is
21st is birthday, and then we come back at the beginning of the year and do Dead Things. So there's nothing on Christmas.
Right? You said the 6th of January is the first one?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe I should put a post in Patreon, and we can vote on if we skip the 21st, and then we'll just push everything to birthday to the beginning of the year.
I'm advocating for a break because I'm going away and I don't want to miss Dead Things. But that's me even being selfish.
That's fair. All right. I think that's all the news that's fit to print. So we're going to start with Tom.
Hello, Ian.
So Tom, a cigar is just a cigar?
Before we get into that,
okay.
I noticed you have an angel puppet in the background.
This wee little puppet man.
How authentic is it?
He's not articulated. If that's
does his nose come off?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. I believe
it's a cheap knockoff. Okay. Yeah.
I believe Lani's a fan of Lani sent this to her, and since she finished Dusted and is not doing Buffyverse stuff, although she and I are trying to figure out a podcast to do together, which finding overlap. Anyway, yeah. So tell me about Doublemeat.
This is one that I've always enjoyed. I mean, it's not in my favorite top 10 favorite or anything, but it's always it's fun. It just like, sure. I mean, I worked at Burger King for like a few months, and
yeah, I wonder if that's a prerequisite to enjoying the episode, because the episode is so miserable. I mean, like we were talking about, the dumpster scene has to be one of the most depressing, not sad, depressing scenes in all of the show. But I do wonder if I worked in I did food service for 2 weeks. I had a lot of jobs for like a week or two, and I'm like, I'm not doing this. Mostly I was in retail when I was younger. But I wonder if that mind-numbing tedium is sort of the experience with that mind-numbing tedium is sort of a necessary prerequisite to enjoy the episode, because otherwise it's just mind-numbingly tedious and weird.
Yeah. There is one little thing that, to me, even though I enjoy it, makes the whole episode very, very unbelievable, unrealistic.
Okay.
And that's the fact that in all the time that Double Meat Palace has been all around California, nobody ever did any experiments on the food they were doing
Oh
anyway.
yeah, good point. Yeah,
I mean,
especially in all
even
of
if they
all
could
states.
avoid um the health inspectors or whatever, uh somebody doing it, some kid doing a high school project would, put it under a microscope and find things out,
Yeah. I love that. That's the most unbelievable thing about the episode for you.
Yeah.
What did you do food service wise when you started?
Oh,
You said Burger King?
yeah, Burger King. Filling drinks. I never actually did the what got to the register. I did
Huh.
I'd fill drinks or do the hamburgers or clean up, do cleaning,
It
But
astonishes
that only
me
lasted for
now.
about a month or so, and then I quit because I was about to do some summer stock. So I said,
It astonishes me now that we're capable of standing there and staring into the distance for 8 straight hours. I mean the level of meditative mental practice and focus required to not go bananas during that, which I think is represented in the surrealism of the episode.
Yeah.
She's so bored that the way it's shot and the way all the characters are sort of otherworldly, I think is to just represent the extreme boredom she's dealing with doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I don't know what there is to say about the episode other than well made and penis. You got anything else?
But what about the cherry pie?
Yeah. All right.
But it also has a lot of good scenes around the Double Meat Palace.
Xander's hilarious.
Xander's hilarious. I love I like the cold open. That's
I forget that Halfrek is in this episode.
Yeah, when Halfrek comes in. Yeah.
The scene where I don't know why it stands out to me so much, but the scene where she's taking everything Anya says and turning it into, oh, so he tells you what to do. Oh, so he talks down to you. Which I think is supposed to be a joke. And the fandom now, as we've all sort of moved past the air period of the show, has sort of reread Xander's actions over the course of the seasons, and so it takes on a secondary meaning. The way she's, I feel like she's speaking for a lot of certain fans about Xander. So it's such a weird scene, but the way she turns all the things that she says is so, it just sticks in my brain a lot. But yeah, I'm not sure what else there is to say about it.
Yeah. But I forgot to look, but I always think about, I should look it up, but I never do look up on IMDb at the cast of this show to see what else they've done. If they've done anything else significant.
You're talking about the actress who plays Halfrek?
The guest stars, yeah. Like the guy who played Manny.
Oh, yeah.
Have we seen him in anything else?
The sweaty guy looks very familiar to me.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that Nick Mark, the director, has sort of galvanized in my mind as one of my favorite directors on the show.
Yeah.
Everything that he's done, Something Blue, Fool for Love, Life Serial, Double Meat Palace, Conversations with Dead People, and then to a lesser degree Beneath You and Checkpoint, is so visually diverse and creative. It's not over the shoulder. That bit in Fool for Love where it's cutting back and forth between Spike's fight in the past and Spike's dance with Buffy is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that stands out about this episode, other than the misery. And there's I mean, it's an Espenson, so there's a ton of humor, but the undercurrent of tedium and depression, which is the existential crisis, is the directing. The visuals in the episode are really spectacular. To take the mediocre and the tedious and make them weird and visually arresting, I think is without just slamming a wide angle lens on the camera, which is there too, but is really a feat. So what is out of curiosity, what do you consider to be the most underrated by the fandom episodes of the show?
Because
this would be mine.
Yeah, this is one of them. Honestly, a lot of season 1 to me is underrated.
Fair.
Trying to, I'm just going quickly over.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. I surprised you with the question.
Yes, I mean season, like season 3. I don't think any of them are underrated. Well, most of them are pretty properly rated. Because there are so few subpar episodes in season 3 that. I mean,
season 3's proportion of really good to bad is the best of the series. I think season 3 is the most consistent season. It's not my favorite, but it's the most consistent.
No, but honestly, I don't think there are any actually bad episodes in season 3.
I don't think so either. Yeah,
there are a couple. There are 1 or 2 mediocre, but that mediocre is about as a mediocre Buffy is usually better than most of.
True.
Most other series.
I think my 3 would be this episode, Normal Again, which people I'm not sure Normal Again is underrated, but people seem to love or hate it.
Yeah.
And Superstar, which I thought
that is definitely one of the most underrated.
Yeah.
That's one of the most brilliant episodes of this 4th season.
I thought it was so joyful and fun, and then when I started writing about it and looking into the fandom, it's like a lot of people don't like that episode.
Yeah.
And I understand there's things that have aged poorly about it, the way it was written and the twins and so forth. But beyond that, the fantasy of it, I think, is really amazing. Well, anyway, Tom, is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
No, I think that's good.
All right, let me go over to Jack before he falls asleep.
Hey. How dare you? I am here. I am switched on. I am invigorated. I am energized, and I am lying.
Do that thing again where you look like you're asleep with your eyes open.
Yeah. So my eyes are totally open, but they look like they're closed. But they're open. It's so bizarre. Do I just have like small eyes? I don't know, but it happens if. Never mind.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, you're not tired.
I'm fine. I can talk. Okay, I can speak. I can enunciate. I can express. I can vamp very, very well, as you can see.
It's a skill you've been working on.
It's a skill I've been working on for a number of years.
Tell me about Doublemeat Palace. You said you had something on this one you wanted to point out.
I really love the scene between Buffy and Spike, not the dumpster scene. That's a little.
I don't think anyone. I don't think that one thing I've said.
To clarify, just in case.
That's fair. I think I've said before that every opinion exists. I've had people say that She is their favorite episode of Angel.
Yeah.
I've never heard that opinion.
What did you say about it? That it's creepy or scary or it's depressing.
I think it might be the most depressing scene in the show.
Very much so. Yeah.
And I'm distinguishing between depressing and sad which I
Yeah.
think is a loosey-goosey subjective distinction. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, the grief from the body is defined by that there was joy present at one point, and that
Yeah,
there was
yeah.
connection, and that there was love
Yeah.
and something beautiful, and it's the loss of that is
And-
grief.
Yeah.
What is happening behind the dumpster?
It's pure emptiness.
It's
pure,
pure
it's-
emptiness. What a great way of putting it.
It's
It's so memorable, and it's so relatable. It's so
and they are just two people trying to feel something, because Spike doesn't have a soul at this point. Like,
well, the way
I
he's
argue
probably
that Spike has a glimmer of goodness in him. I do argue that, but he's still,
that's fine.
He's
the way
still
he's
soulless.
interpreting that. The one thing I get from that scene too is, like, there's two people having a radically different interpretation of what's happening in this moment.
Yeah.
What Spike makes of that moment and what Buffy makes of that moment are vastly different.
Buffy's almost dissociating and trying to feel something, and like almost like ground herself in like a weird way, perhaps. And Spike is just, oh my god, I'm hooking up with the girl I have a crush on. Like, that's basically all it is for him. Yeah. But no, I'm talking about that scene at the counter, which I really love. I feel like some people might argue that in that scene, Spike is kind of damseling Buffy a little bit, but I don't really see it like that. I can understand how others might see it that way, because she's, consenting to this job, and then a guy's coming in and saying, hey, this isn't good for you, get out of here. But I see it more as like Spike, in this whole season, Spike sees Buffy in a way that nobody else can.
Mm-hmm.
He can read between the lines like nobody else can. And what he's really doing in that scene is just saying, look, you are better than this. Like, you don't need to put yourself through this. He's not trying to rescue her as such, but just almost like talk sense into her. And I kind of like that. It's a Spike is an empath, soulless or souled. Spike is a huge empath, and he's got a high amount of emotional intelligence, is what I would say.
I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said. The one thing I got from the episode on this rewatch is there is something, and I want to be careful when I say this, there's something classist about the episode, right?
Okay.
Because the thing of it is like, for him to say that she's better than that, is not an uncommon reading. I think that's the most common reading of the episode. But it's to say that, like, the janitor is less important than the teacher. It's a very capitalist and classist perspective of the service industry itself, like, that these people are less than. And I think the episode is created from that perspective, the way it frames all the other people who work there as idiots or weird or whatever.
Yeah, but I don't disagree, but I will say that I don't think anybody who works in fast food does it because they enjoy it. Even the managers, I think it's just a paycheck. I don't think anyone genuinely enjoys it. There might be some.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true.
Well, I think it's extremely rare for it to be someone's dream job. Like flipping burgers and.
Yeah, but I think it's extremely rare for anyone to have their dream job. Period. Right.
Yeah.
And yet blue collar desky sorts of high paying, like, jobs are sort of valued by income as opposed to creativity or the value that they give back to society or people or any of that. And I think there's an element of that in this, that I the way that I could excuse it is that is also the perspective of a 20-year-old. That is probably the perspective of someone going through this first experience, someone who's a college dropout, yada, yada, yada. Like, someone from Buffy's particular demographic and background, it makes sense that they would feel that way. And so the episode reflecting that is fine to me.
Yeah.
But it's something I hadn't noticed before, where I was like, there's nothing that is ignoble about
No,
these
it's not.
positions.
There's like work is work, and you shouldn't be ashamed of it. But I do
Exactly.
feel like
Yeah.
it's a horrible job for 99.99999% of people. Most people do it just because they need money, and
Yeah.
but as you said, like
What?
most people aren't in their dream job, and they're doing what they do just for the money. Like,
I didn't mean to hijack your point, by the way. I
Oh.
agree with you. It's interesting that Spike is the only one who seems to be advocating for Buffy. There is a weird he's also the only person that she's being vulnerable with and sharing like her journey.
Yeah.
So he's the only one that has access to advocate for her.
Yeah. But also like
and it comes with a price with him, of course.
Well, the thing is too, like the Scoobies rock up and they're oblivious to it. Really, that no one really says anything. I don't think, unless I missed it because we kind of talked over it. But I don't think anyone sees how miserable she is or what the situation is, except for Spike. He's the only one that sees.
No one seems to know she's depressed.
Yeah, which is the season really. It's
right. Something blue happened. We all got distracted by Willow, and there has not been a revisiting of Buffy's mental and emotional state. So it's interesting that I think Spike advocating for her.
I love it. I think it's wonderful.
I love it, but also look what the results are, because the scene in the alleyway behind the dumpster follows that.
I fully concede that I'm looking at that scene inside of a bubble. I'm not
with
thinking about
Jack-colored glasses.
Yes, 100%. Spike's my boy. You know, Spike is my boy, and I love all the lovey-dovey stuff that comes with all of that, and you know, I'm thinking about touched. You know, when I say I love you, it's not because I want you, because I can't have you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking about all of that, you know, but in this particular instance, though, I'm thinking about that scene inside of a bubble, and not literally the next scene where they're banging behind a dumpster. They're
dumpster banging.
Yeah, that's not sweet. That's not.
No. I think too that James Marsters' charisma carries that particular little monologue of his
but like,
pretty well.
That guy could read a phone book and make it the sexiest, most charismatic thing ever.
Yeah.
Like it. Oh, my answer for most underrated episode. I mean, I could probably think of a better example if I had more time, but
sure.
I think Nightmares is quite underrated. I really like that episode. I just think it's fun.
It's one of the better season ones for sure.
Yeah, and season 1 is not, you know, it's not the best. But
I mean, Prophecy Girl is the only episode that feels like what the show will become.
Yeah.
And it's just that one scene.
Yeah, and the reason why I say Nightmares is because I really like it, and I don't hear it spoken about a lot or mentioned a lot. I just think it's a good episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, well,
all right, brother.
Oh my God, cheers.
Sounds good. Let me go over to Lady Eternal, and then we'll go to Russell.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Busy.
Yeah.
It's that time of year.
Yes.
But we all know. We all know how that goes. And when Tom mentioned it, I got curious and I looked up while I was listening to other people talk, and Tom, you did miss a big one with Manny. Manny was one of the police officers in Silence of the Lambs.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. He also had a day player role on The West Wing, as did the actress that plays the manager who comes in to play him after Manny is killed. The actress that plays her, not only was she on Psych, she had a day player role in The West Wing in Two Cathedrals, which is
be where I recognize her from. Lani's a huge West Wing fan.
Yeah, Two Cathedrals is probably there are several season finales of Buffy that are in my top 10 list of best season finales of a television show ever, but the Two Cathedrals tops that list consistently. It's like the best season finale of a television show I've ever seen.
My feeling, one
Buffy
of the things
makes up the rest of that list.
One of the things I noticed about West Wing is it shared in common something that happened to Star Trek: The Next Generation, which is the writers realized who they had that they could give monologues to. Yes. As the show goes on, it's like, oh, we've got Martin Sheen. Well, let's just milk that for all it's worth. And the same is true of Patrick Stewart.
Yes.
As the show goes on, it's like, oh, we can give him anything and he'll make us sound like freaking geniuses.
And I'll tell you what, we could do a whole West Wing discussion.
Yeah.
We could derail into that. Yes, you too, Josh. You're definitely in this one because you recognize like 3/4 of my references. But yeah, no, that was when Tom mentioned that, I did a quick glance and I was like, wow, that's a big one for somebody to have a credit for this show.
I love a working actor. Yeah, but the other thing that's funny is the more you watch, the more you start to feel like there's only like 20 or 30 people working in all of LA. Because the number, you watch House and the number of Buffy and Angel actors you see in House, it's like, aren't there other people? I mean, it's good. I'm glad they're working.
Law and Order, where they reuse day players like 6 times over the course of the seasons. It's amazing. But this episode probably is right behind Nightmares as one of the most underrated episodes I think of in the series.
Hang on one sec. I apologize.
No, absolutely.
I have to push a button.
I'll take away your bucket.
Okay. Didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, I agree with Jack that Nightmares is probably my number 1 underrated episode. This episode is also on that list, and Puppet Show, because Puppet Show was the first episode we got Snyder.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff in Puppet Show. I hate the puppet. It's a big problem. Is every scene the puppet's in, I want to die. And then every other scene in the epussode is Snyder or Cordelia or the talent show and kids.
Yes.
I don't like them. Yeah. You really have faith in these kids, don't you? Weird.
Yeah.
He's so good. He's one of my favorite high school characters.
Oh, he's wonderful. And it's the first episode that we get to see him, and honestly, he blew away my expectations, especially when we got to season, I think 2, when you start realizing that he knows what's going on and that there are people that know what's going on behind the scenes. It just blows your mind the way that he so perfectly pitches that character. And it happens a few times in the series when you realize that there are characters that are completely out of focus, that are completely in the background, that know that this town is not a normal town, that there's strange stuff going on. And that's a parallel that this episode has for me to the prom, believe it or not.
Interesting.
Because it's a microcosm of that admission that Jonathan makes in his speech at the prom, is that they have a death rate. Strange stuff happens here. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that doesn't go on in other schools. Doublemeat Palace, every time you turn around, these characters are so very dead, monotone. We have a lot of turnaround here.
Yeah.
Except this is Sunnydale. They're not saying we have a lot of turnaround here because this is fast food and people just quit because they can't take it anymore. They know that they're getting mowed down. They're just so completely worn down.
We have a lot of turnover here.
It's unremarkable. It's the thing nobody talks about, and yet everybody knows is happening.
No, I like that in fitting in with the reading that Buffy doesn't necessarily want to die, but she doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
I think that, which is a reading on her. I mean, yes, in the last episode she said, "I don't want to die," and that's something, at least. But I think that feeling of indifference, though, is part of the defining characteristic of the depression, and I like that as a sort of a cross section of those characters.
And I think that this episode also, in context, it was coming kind of at a time when there was a lot of discussion about what was going on at fast food places. It in fact aired 2 years before Morgan Spurlock's Super Size Me.
Oh, interesting.
Where they were exposing a lot of stuff that goes on in real fast food places that not obviously to this level of not actually, but talking about the way that the fast food industry is towards the food that it serves.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of in the zeitgeist at the time. It was in the water supply that fast food places are maybe not the best places to eat.
Like a bug that fell in the fryer.
Exactly. And so I find it an episode that has a lot of very subtle commentary.
And some not so subtle commentary.
Is this a penis metaphor?
I think we're past the point of metaphor. It's just a penis.
And what of course is really interesting is to me is that also that when she's actually killing it and Willow is grabbing it and dumping it into the fryer, the underside where you can actually see the grinder, where you can actually see like the appendages and the mouth and everything. Somebody was very clearly trying to make it look like that extendable mouth from the xenomorphs from Alien.
Yeah.
So they were trying to build the xenomorph into the penis.
Well, I mean, and talk about another monster that was designed with very deliberate sexual. Giger said that it was all sexual design and metaphor on the alien itself too.
Yeah, so, yeah. But I think that
Giger, I'm never sure.
Yeah, I think it's Geiger, but I've heard it multiple ways. But I think that this episode also is taking an opportunity to comment on something that was kind of floating in the background of, the underpinnings of the idea that the Slayer exists, because it does feed back into the idea of if your magical savior tends to die by the time she's 20, and the entire crux of the Watchers Council's control over the Slayer is that she tends to be young and die young, most Slayers don't have to worry about a job.
Yeah, the Cruciamentum is 18.
Mm-hmm.
And my reading on the Cruciamentum was Slayers are supposed to die or be terrified enough of the Watchers Council that they never rebel against them.
And since the
Um,
Watchers Council doesn't subsidize the Slayer's life, what they're
for
counting on
some
there,
reason, yeah.
what they're counting on there is that the Slayer is disposable and will die young.
Definitely the Watchers Council treats them that way.
You also then have even how many Slayers have existed during a time period when women could go to college and earn their own way and be trying to get a job and living on their own, instead of being expected to fit into a role of being taken care of by someone,
Mm-hmm.
especially being taken care of by a patriarchal figure, a father or a brother or a husband.
Yeah.
So Dawn sitting there talking to Xander and saying Buffy can never be a doctor or a lawyer because she can't go to college and be the Slayer. She can't hold down a job that is going to expect her to have demanding hours and regular schedule and still be able to hunt or save the world or do research. Like, what is she going to be able to do?
Well, the interesting thing to me is the answer is kind of right in front of them, and it's sort of the message of the whole show is community. With Xander, with Willow and Tara in the house, Xander close by, like community, especially, and it's strange. Like even in my own life, hitting 45, I've sort of come back around to like, oh, the idea of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and individualism and all this is just nonsense. The community is more and more the thing that we try and foster in our lives. I'm not sure that the show, I'm not sure the show's in a satisfactory way completely comes back around and addresses the questions about capitalism that it raises. We see her in this outfit in later episodes. Mizon Santiago, which I just got that name and that's amazing, says Buffy could easily be a superstar pro athlete. I think that was covered in Witch, the idea of why she might not be allowed or maybe didn't want to do that. But yeah, I do need to move on. Is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
I love Halfrek to pieces. I love her.
So adorable.
Every time she's on screen, and when she had a occasionally recurring role on Grey's Anatomy, the first time I saw her pop onto the screen in that lab coat, I was like, Halfrek! It was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I was like, oh my God, it's Hallie.
I love too that they just recast Cecily. Well, okay, I don't know if that was deliberate or not, but I do love that they comment on it later in the season.
Yeah, at Buffy's birthday party.
Yeah.
William?
Yeah.
And
right, well, go ahead.
Oh, and Spike's expression right before the dumpster scene. He's desperate to help her. He doesn't like what she's being made to do. He's never had to think about these kinds of things before, you can absolutely tell. But the fact I can get money, walk with me right now.
Yeah.
And the fact that she won't let him, and
he's desperate. Scene.
He's desperate to he's walking past the window. The expression on his face is deep concern. Like there's an unformed thing to this that he wants so badly to help her, and for her to be coming to him for help as a partner. It's the grand gesture that he's so used to making with the people that he cares about, but it feeds into his growing desperation over the course of the season that's going to build up to an episode that we all know it's coming.
Well, it definitely fits the pattern too, because if you look at Drusilla, she was sick for most of season 2. She needed him. She was dependent on him. And when that changed, he lost her. I think there's definitely especially with his mother, there's a power thing there. But we don't need to get into the Oedipal stuff yet again.
Not yet.
I appreciate your time. Let me go over to Russell, and then we'll go to Allison. Oh, wait. Before I go to Russell, Jack, you asked why the penis comes out of the old lady's head.
Yeah.
It's because Buffy's got penises on the brain.
Okay. Sure.
All
right.
No.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the clarification, I guess.
Hey, you're welcome. I just wanted to make sure that we circled back around and talked about the important points. Russell, how you doing?
I'm good, but no.
I'm sorry. That's a tough segue, Russell. I apologize. I didn't set you up for success there. That's my bad.
You're good.
Tell me about the episode.
So I didn't get to the spike parts. Oh well. But working fast food as a kid,
Sure.
I got to admit, watching this episode, everything is too. I don't know the word I'm looking for. Everyone's like the perfect red herring for why
Sure, yeah.
is disappearing. It's too uncomfortable. It's not until after everything's revealed that it starts to feel like a normal fast food place, with a normal manager, except for the one blonde kid who is trying to show Buffy the register at front.
Well, I sort of think the distinction. First of all, I think that and he gets murdered. Buffy is the one who brings normal back to the place. She destroys the monster. But I think the surreal is. I think what we're supposed to read is that she is there because she has to be in the beginning, and then at the end of the episode, she makes the choice to be back there. She chooses that for herself. She actually goes back in and asks the manager to take her back, and she makes the choice that this is what I'm doing and this is my life and all of that. And I think that that's why you could read the tonal shift from the deeply surreal and comedic, other than it being an Espenson episode, to that's not fair. Band Candy and the Espenson is normal when it's normal, but I think the direction here is deliberate. And it just ordinarily I think I'm the first one to complain about what you're talking about, the red herring, the split Xander with the coin, and he's using magic flashy on them, and it's like that's just a trick on us, the audience. But in this one, I think we're actually inside Buffy's suffering and Buffy's perspective, and that's creating Dutch angles and weird uncomfortable shots, and the tone of what we see on the screen is supposed to reflect Buffy's inner experience. And because of that, I think that's the reason why the other stuff doesn't bother me, because in that situation, what she's going through, everything is weird. Everything is heightened. Everything is both boring and terrifying. All of that. And this also happens to be Sunnydale, and there's a monster and things disappearing and so forth. But that's just my reading on it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over.
No, not at all. So the bulk of this is going to be on capitalism.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Ian.
Don't apologize.
But this is the first time that Buffy actually finds work to pay for her expenses.
Right.
And it got me to thinking, how is Giles or Wesley for that matter, but Giles, let's just start with Giles, able to afford his England home off a librarian's salary. I know what faculty makes, and they do not make that kind of resource. And if you're going to say, well, the other watchers or the other council takes care of him, it's pretty messed up that they really don't take care of their slayers.
Well, yeah. But I think it gets back to what Lady Eternal was talking about. They avoid empowering them, and in a capitalist society, money is power. I think that in terms of the Watchers Council, I mean, there's episodes where they talk about Giles gets paid by the Watchers Council. So yeah, the Watchers draw a salary. Tom pointed out in Checkpoint, Buffy gets Giles rehired. And gets all his pay retroactively from when he got fired in season or in Helpless, I believe is the episode. You have a father's love for the Slayer.
Yeah.
So I mean that explains their money, and I think not paying the Slayer is a way of sort of keeping the Slayer under her Watcher's thumb. But it does raise the question: why in Checkpoint didn't Buffy say you're going to pay me too if you want my help? Because I believe at that point we were already dealing with things like oh no, that was season 5. Yeah, how was she affording anything? I guess Joyce had life insurance.
Well, Joyce owned that museum, didn't she?
I think Joyce must have made out in the divorce, because unless she's selling art pieces like crazy, it's not like running a tiny art museum is you're making money hand over fist either. And they do say that Hank is in South America with his mistress or something to that effect.
That's after the Dawn thing, though.
Sure, absolutely. But I mean, it does imply that Hank has money to travel. So whether Hank was a terrible father from the beginning or was sort of retconned into that by the monks, it does imply that he has money. Spain. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. Well, what else you got, Russell?
I don't, like I said, I don't have anything on the spy character. I do want to bring up Amy and Willow real brief.
I don't know what to make of it. Yeah. What do you make of it?
I can't believe that I have watched this episode so many times and missed the signs that is the Amy that we get later down the road, especially when she transforms. Or wait a minute, everybody's spoiled, right?
Yeah, this group.
Okay. When we get to Amy transforming Willow into Warren later down, but not
transforming Willow into Warren.
Yeah. And just becoming this there's no words for her. But this is the episode that sets it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is where we see her actual darkness.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's full on psychopath territory, but maybe a little bit of sociopath territory.
I'm jealous of you. I don't like you because I'm jealous of you.
Yeah, to actively drug Willow in this episode too is a lot.
And then I'm going to finish up with your penis monster.
My penis monsters. I'm glad. First of all, I'm glad you put monsters on the end of that sentence. But anyway,
Well, you're the one that named it properly.
yeah, I just had to. I probably should have led at the beginning of that rewatch that we're just going to say the word penis a lot, and I apologize. Sorry, not sorry.
No, you don't have nothing to be sorry for. I'm just giving you crap. What's the word? I'm searching for a word that's beyond disturbing and beyond horrific.
Repulsive.
More scary.
Grotesque.
Yes, grotesque is a good one.
Okay.
The idea, and we meet a demon in season 7, Buffy, as well, that paralyzes the victim. Like in season 7, he strips Willow.
Yeah, Jack's favorite monster.
And then this demon here paralyzes its victim while devouring them. Now, there are episodes of, say, Criminal Minds, just a variety where they have human components, also drugging a human person where you can't feel anything, but you know your life is ending. You know you're being devoured. And there is just something incredibly disturbing about the imagery. I don't know how you feel, but when I see this, it creeps me.
Yeah, it's horrible. There's something about her missing eyes too. But Lani is in the chat, and she opened by with her notes from Still Pretty. I remember I called it penis dentata, which is this is a metaphor to reverse the vagina dentata. Yeah, it's a lot, you know, and the episode is sort of emblematic of season 6 itself. There is this huge range of different flavors that are occurring within the episode itself. It's the Espenson, so it's very funny. It is creepy and disturbing. It is gross. It is deeply depressing. And I think that monster, as you're describing it, which is a hilarious joke, I think it was Jane Espenson in the commentary track says, and now our most thinly veiled metaphor ever. The penis monster that paralyzes by spitting on Buffy and gets cut in half by the lesbian. You know, like, thinnest metaphor ever. It's hilarious, but I agree with you. It's also, I mean, I'm particularly susceptible to the like 1980s style basket case, kind of latexy, gross monster design, and which is, this feels very 80s cheap horror to me, which is you know, the era I grew up watching.
Me too.
Yeah, watching horror for the first time. You know, Tales from the Crypt. It's the kind of monster you
Dark
don't see.
Side.
Yeah, Tales from the Dark Side. So it's affecting. I really like it. Well, I don't know if I like it. It's affecting. I like everything it represents.
I'm going to leave you with one final thought.
All right, bud.
It's a fast food job supposed to support Buffy and the house that she owns and the expenses that she has. I've worked fast food. You do not make anything working there.
Well, I think that is, speaking of someone who has been recently challenged by being on a particular path and realizing that it's not substantial enough to provide for the destination or the dream or the target that you're aiming at, and sort of the panic and the lack of clarity as to how to redirect properly. It's like those. I agree with you. Those jobs are. It fits the tale that is being told at this particular moment in time. Those jobs are not a living wage, but they are but they are plentiful because there's so much turnover. And so in this sort of panic moment and depression and what she's dealing with, sure, it's not wise. It's not the wisest choice to pursue this job, but it makes sense in terms of like, well, I have to do something. And you just start throwing stuff against the wall, and this is the first thing that's stuck. Does that track?
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
all I got for you, buddy.
All right, bud. Appreciate your time. It's good to see you. Let me go over to Allison, and then we'll go to Lauren. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
All right. So I'm in the category of have never worked retail, so I'm mostly taking people's word on
Oh, okay.
How much the episode resonates or doesn't.
Well, it's interesting then. What is your perspective on the episode?
I mean,
not having that experience.
I've heard secondhand experiences enough to be like, okay, yes, I get where this is coming from, sort of thing.
In terms of, are you in the this is dislike the episode? This is an underrated episode. Tell me where it lands for you.
I don't know, neutral. So the things that to me are interesting here that are worth talking about are I know we've already covered some of the conversation between Buffy and Spike, and also Halfrick and the things that she talks about the relationship between Xander and Anya.
It's so interesting. What do you make of it? I love it when it's happening, but I don't know what to make of it.
So the thing about this show is we have several examples of just because a character is evil doesn't mean the advice they're giving is wrong. We get that from the mayor back in the giving advice on Buffy and Angel's relationship. We get that from Spike in Lover's Walk. And so I think that
the biggest one is what's his name? For me, the biggest one is what's his name from season 4? People look like
I was about to think Webbs from season 7.
No, I can see his smarmy face and his big blue eyes.
Oh, Parker,
thank you. Yeah, the whole seduction speak. A part of that, like 90% of why that's successful, is the song that's playing in the background when he's talking about people think that they're caught up in history, but I don't believe that. It's just people making choices. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, he's speaking the philosophy of Buffy's show to Buffy in that scene. Mm-hmm. And he's a smarmy douchebag. So yeah, I love that. I love giving truth to monsters. I love that the shows do that.
Halfrick is purposefully turning every single thing Anya says into a thing that makes her question the relationship with Xander. And she could even be like, I wouldn't be surprised if like this whole supposed mix-up isn't a mix-up in Dahafra, and this is like set up, lead up for Dahafra into making an offer at the end of Hellspells.
That's a good headcanon. I like
that could totally be a thing. But I think that one of the pieces where what she's turning around is actually digging at something is that like when Anya is asked to say positive things about Sanders, and she's like, he's kind and brave and he loves me, even if that's hard. Her turning that around is actually the way Anya phrases that there does actually have something there. Who told you that it was hard to love you?
Who told you that it was hard to love you? Yeah.
And so we know Xander comes.
What I'm just wondering about that scene, what I find hard to read about the scene is, and I'm not sure it matters, but was the show co-signing that at the time of the writing, or is that something that we now, as the time has moved on, and sort of look back on Xander's behavior that got? I mean, every character has terrible moments, but his are sort of notorious for not being called out, right? And that is a moment where it gets called out. But were we watching the show at the time and going like, yeah, she's super blunt. And like Cordy, for instance, we look back now and say, like, tact is just not saying true stuff is a brilliant line, and we appreciate Cordy, but that wasn't the initial interpretation of that character during the show. And were we supposed to be on Xander's side when that line was written? Like, yeah, Anya's a little difficult, or is that, I don't know. That's what I find interesting about that. I'm clearly on the Halfrick side now, just to be clear. But I'm just curious how
I
that occurred.
don't know how enough to parse about that because, like, I didn't grow up watching the show. I don't
Sure.
have it in context. So
Well,
so I'm not the person to opine on that. I think that what's interesting to me is that, like, if you look at Xander and what we know of his home life, which was awful, and
yeah,
what he had in terms of role models growing up, which is awful,
yeah,
and we look at the way Xander's tendency towards sexist comments is much more common in the earlier seasons rather than the later seasons.
it clears up a
We
little bit.
can interpret that as him learning to say that stuff a little bit less. In which case, from his perspective, it could have been genuinely helpful in the situation we was in if more people in his life had said, "Hey, that thing you just said is messed up. Don't do that."
Yeah,
So, like, from his perspective, that's that's something that would have been helpful to him. And if the only thing Anya was dealing with was that, oh, she's been immersed in this demon culture and is needing some reminder of how things work in a human culture, then yes, I'm comparing Xander's family to demons by doing this, but I think the show does that too. Uh, uh,
I would agree.
that
Yeah,
that that wouldn't necessarily be so bad, but that's not what all of what's happening with Anya. What's happening with Anya is that she has always been overly literal interpretations, and you can take your furs across the river. Uh, she's always been in a bit like that, and that's kind of like more core to her character and not something that you can actually correct someone out of.
interesting. Okay.
Particularly when in that scene with Halfrick, when Halfrick asks, before when Halfrick asks like asks for an example of how is it hard to love you, and the answer that Anya gives that Halfrick then reframes as, oh, he corrects you. The thing she brings up specifically is he tells me that I shouldn't be so excited about money stuff. And it's just like, okay, so in terms of things that you can correct Anya on or not, being excited about a special interest, that's not actually hurting anybody. Like, it's weird for you to like this so much. It's the same
Yeah.
as it's weird for you to have this hobby or like this show so much or yada yada yada. And so it's just like, oh yeah, yeah. There's things that Anya deserves correcting on. The being tactless with Willow in this episode is an example of a thing that she deserves correcting on. That's not one of them.
Sure. Well, the thing that getting back to the idea, and this is just again, I'm not really sure whether it's here nor there, but I'm kind of fascinated by it. Is the idea of, is the writing co-signing Xander or Anya, or is it straight down the middle?
I think the writing's trying to stir up the idea that there's problems in their relationship without being without it being so obvious that people then predict the outcome of Hell's Bells.
Well, yeah, it's setting up Hell's Bells, but the following scene where she is angry at Xander and he has no idea why, the way that's played for humor, to me, endorses the joke as opposed to the reality that Halfrick is pointing out. Every single time money comes up as a topic with Anya, it's played for laughs. It's not played straight. It's not literal. But I think that a literal reading is completely fair. That you're giving those lines of, yeah, that is not appropriate.
I mean, played straight in all the way, maybe. So like
You'll have to.
We
I'm
li-
not great with the names.
we learned that Anya literally does a joyful dance when closing out the cash register at the
Oh
end at
yeah,
night
yeah.
that she does
Oh,
with
and he
Don. The dance
says,
of
"There's
capitalist
the woman I love."
fraternity. Like
Yeah,
the idea that that is a positive, quirky but positive thing is there sometimes.
yeah. Sometimes, okay, yeah, that's a good example. I couldn't think of any. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Again, I'm the reason why I say I'm not sure that it's relevant one way or another is because I think that our interpretation of the piece does change over time, and there isn't an objective take on any of this. So I like it. I definitely like everything you're saying. And again, I don't know what to make of that scene while I'm watching it. I just know I kind of love it. The way it's written.
Well, also every scene Hallie's in, kind of.
Oh, she's so good. She's so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there's time for one tiny thing about the Spike scene thing.
Sure, go ahead.
So even though I think in one way Spike is correct, like this job is killing her, like this is depressing, and he's the only one offering her trying to do a way out. I don't think the way he goes about doing that conversation necessarily works very well. He's
At the
again
job
doing
in
the
front of
thing.
other people.
Well, partly that, but partly the way he says, the way he uses this as evidence that she's not human and is more of a demon. And at the beginning part of that conversation and that argument, where he said, and where he specifically says, "You're doing this to convince yourself that you're a normal girl, normal job for a normal girl." And just because we know that every time that possibility gets brought up, it makes Buffy feel more miserable and insecure. And it's part of that shame cycle that
Yeah.
we've talked about before. And so, and then, so he's doing this thing where, good intentioned or not, he's going in and bringing up this perspective that's really shaming her, and then he gets sex out of it later.
Yeah.
It is kind of like, that's a little iffy, and the whole, if you're going from the perspective of, okay, if anything Buffy does that looks like she's trying to act like a normal girl is used as evidence that, oh, she's in denial, and everything she does that he interprets as, being quote unquote not human-like is also interpreted as that. It's everything she does is going to be twisted by him into the perspective that, oh, you belong in the darkness with me. And so it's uh one of those catch-22, like nothing's actually going to, even though he's correctly identified that, okay, this job isn't a dead end and it's not going to help and it's not a good place for you. That's not a way to be persuasive. And I think the reason he does it, even though it's not persuasive, is because to him, the idea of being treated as not human or as a demon isn't a thing he sees as a negative, and I don't think it's a thing he can see as a negative. If
Not
you
yet,
like
no.
Pre-Soul, I don't think he can see as a negative. Like if you look at all of the vampires through the course of the whole show, we never see a non-souled vampire that doesn't like being a vampire. Like that's one of the core things that gets changed when you're turned. The same way we never see a vampire that is squeamish about blood or doesn't or is creeped out by corpses, even those are common things in humans. Like
Yeah.
there's certain things that always get changed no matter what the starting template was. And I'm not sure he can empathize with that because almost everything we see Spike empathize with is a situation that he has at some point been in a similar place to. Like empathizing with Buffy and Dawn when their mom is sick is a thing he has real experience with.
Well, I think that
And it's that sort of stuff.
Spike is one of the more emotionally insightful and empathetic characters on the show. I just think that it's weaponized. I think that most of the scenes we see its application, with some exceptions that are endlessly debated, are used for the purposes of bringing Buffy closer to him and further away from her relationships and her friends. The idea of her being a demon and drilling that into her head again is something that moves her away from her the human Scoobies.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So
I mean,
and it's
it's
important.
the distinction in between, like, okay, you're saying he's seeing the situation clearly, but he's choosing to use that
He's
argument
choosing the
because it
application
will
of it.
push him again, as opposed to he's seeing most of the situation clearly, but that's one area where he can't see clearly.
Right. Yeah, I get you. Well, I do need to move on. Let me go over to sorry. I
think you said
forgot
minutes.
who was Lauren, thank you. Lauren and then Josh. I had a little bit of a brain spasm. I apologize. Hello.
Okay, so just quickly, apart from Gingerbread, which I think is underrated, I already spoke about, I think a lot of season 7's underrated. I really like it, but anyway, I know some people don't like it because they think Buffy's acting like a heartless general or whatever, but I think when we get there, I've got a lot to say about it, and that's really good. Anyway.
I think season 7's really good until it isn't. I think season 7 and season 4 have a lot in common that way. The beginning of season 4 is just banger after banger after banger until the initiative, the Iron Team, and then it's just not anymore. I love the beginning of season 7.
I like the end of it, but anyway, we'll get there later.
Well, we'll get there, yeah.
I don't love all the Caleb stuff. There's some of the Caleb stuff I don't love, but yeah, anyway. All right, so in terms of the Hell Freak thing, I'm just going to give a brief comment. Sure. I think it comes up in Hell's Bells that De Hoffren says, like, oh, Helly, you're always working. Like, it's like she's always kind of like, is there some vengeance underneath there, and maybe trying to
gin up some
can't
business.
help herself. And both her and Anya, when we see them as vengeance demons, are quite deceptive in how they work. Like, you know, Cordelia didn't know she was wishing herself into Bizarro World and gonna get killed as a result of her wish, any more than Dawn knew that she was technically making a wish either. Like, they're quite sneaky in how they go about their modus operandi. So yeah, in terms of like, do I think they're co-signing it? I think it's one of those things where it's kind of both. Like, as in, actually, Xander does do some bad stuff, like in terms of how he corrects her. But at the same time, I think it is played for laughs a bit as well. But it's like, there is some truth to it, like underneath the performance. Okay, so I actually want to talk about the penis metaphor, like it actually being a metaphor. Because
sure.
I think at the start of the episode, like, Anya does a little bit to a degree in the show represent sort of capitalism, or, you know, the sort of, she is kind of a boss now since Giles left or whatever. And she gives us that thesis at the start of the episode, like, you know, super villains, they don't, I put in a hard day's work as a vengeance demon, you know, super villains like the trio, they want reward without labor. So I want to come back to that, but like, okay, forget them for a second. Who in society actually does get reward without labor? It's the capitalist ruling class. Like, they don't bloody do any of the actual work. They get all the money. They own the means of production.
Yeah.
But they don't actually do that back-breaking work. I've done plenty of shitty jobs to a point where you actually feel really locked in because you don't earn enough money to sort of dream, enjoy your life, whatever. You're literally just making enough to pay your rent, pay your bills, and feed yourself so that you can come back to work the next day and do it all over again.
That's definitely an aspect to it, as I think that it is designed to hook. You know, they talk about poverty being a trap, and that is an aspect to it. Is upward mobility requires money. Getting upward mobility requires more money, you know.
Yeah. So. And in terms of all the people in the place, it's like the longer they've been there, the more the life has been sapped out of them. So that guy with Buffy teaching at the register, he's probably the newest, like, employee before her. So he hasn't totally
the most normal of the bunch.
Yeah, but I also have had that experience where I had this job where it was like I was earning such terrible money and it was so awful and just like chopping shit from the public. And you start to notice that you get more submissive in the rest of your life because you were constantly taking shit from people. And it's like, you know, you don't get to tell them that they're being a jerk because you'll get fired. Like, there's a real power dynamic that goes on with both customers and your managers where you are not in a position to fight back, or work makes you feel so disempowered. Like, in the rest of your life, you feel like, I can tell my friend that they're being a shithead when they are, but I can't do it to a customer and I can't do it to a manager. However, in reality, under capitalism, workers are their most powerful when they're actually working, because when we do things collectively, like, we have the ability to organize, we have the ability to strike, we actually have the ability to stop the flow of profits to capitalists. But the way the capitalist system makes you feel is that you are the most disempowered when you're at work. It's a really fascinating dynamic of the system. And I think at the end, I think the penis is the man. It's the capitalist ruling class. It's, Buffy sticking it to the man. Like, he literally, she takes over the means of production and sticks the penis in the meat grinder. Her and Willow work collectively to beat the.
It's the Sabo.
Technically, Cherry Pie Lady is a customer, and you don't get to stick customers and stuff. But I think they were trying not to copy Soylent Green entirely, because if it had been people and it had been a manager that they'd stuck in the meat grinder, probably that would have been the slightly more radical point. But whatever, I still like it.
Well, I kind of love that, like we were talking about, that everything is a bait and switch. That's another thing. That's another difference between this and The Replacement, is everything is weird. Everything is off. In The Replacement, it's just the coin. There's just the other example is No Place Like Home. Is that the name of the episode? The end of the episode, Dawn standing there being weird with more tea, Mom. Oh, you don't have to worry about her, Mom. She's being creepy for no reason.
Yeah.
There's no plot-driven reason why that's happening other than to make us, the audience, think something's going to happen. In this particular episode, everything is weird. Everything is surreal. Everything is strange. And that's because we're in Buffy's perspective. And so she's suspicious of everything. She's suspicious of everyone that's there. I love your take on the way people are sort of beaten down by capitalism and how that's reflected in their behavior. And Manny, the manager, had 10 years of experience and was very strange. The manager we meet at the end of the episode has 5. And she's pretty normal because she hasn't quite been exhausted to the degree that Manny has been so far. So it's really interesting.
And even doing those type of jobs, it makes you, you kind of are treated like children, like they wash your hands all the time. You know what I mean? Like, in those jobs, what they do, it's called Taylorism. Like, there's an actual whole study of this. I think it's it might have been Henry Ford, or it might have been one of the early people that owned McDonald's or something. It's like they literally calculated how long it takes to make fries, to turn around and fill up a drink, and to do this, and to take an order. And they broke it down into, this is exactly how productive you should be at every minute of every second of every day. And if you have a 5-minute break here, you'll be more productive. Like, it's to the nth degree of sort of mechanizing human beings that is full on. And when you work in those type of jobs, it's very, very, everything is so structured and so there's such a routine to it that it just is mind-numbing. It really is. In terms of Spike, actually, sorry, slightly, I'll go back for 1 second in terms of why it's a penis, though. Overwhelmingly, if you're looking at the capitalist ruling class, which is like the 0.1% of wealthy people, they are overwhelmingly straight white men who are super, super wealthy, knowing the means of production. So I think, it being represented as the man and a literal penis does make a bit of sense. And I'm not trying to take a shot at any of the men here, because it's like most of people, I don't think, are the 0.1% who own the means of production. If we were looking at it as a demographic, that's kind of what it is. Okay, and so the Spike thing, Spike is a lumpen proletariat. Like, he doesn't work. He lives off he's like in a class position where he's kind of got more of an anarchist perspective on it, which makes sense, given that he does not pay rent, he does not have bills, he actually can't understand that she just has to get a job because she needs money. Like, he's like, oh, normal girl, trying to convince yourself that you're normal, because he doesn't deal with regular, ordinary, daily things that she has to deal with. Yeah, and if she quits that job, she's more dependent on him. By whatever, yeah, exactly.
That's that was what I was trying to say. Is everything Spike uses his empathy and to foster her dependence on him. It's not that he isn't insightful; he's very insightful, but it's used for the purposes of. And whether or not he knows that he's doing that, I don't know that he does know that he's doing that.
Well, I agree with Lady Eternal that he is genuinely trying to help her. He's just trying to do it in a fucked up way. And someone
think
said
it's genuine.
I've been thinking this for weeks as well, which is that in As You Were, the whole reason why he's dealing in those demon eggs is because he wants the money to give it to Buffy. Like, he's been poor and lived on no money his whole life. He steals when he needs cigarettes. He steals when he needs blood or whatever, or, you know, like whatever he does to get blood. Like, he manipulates people. He negotiates. He plays cards. Like, he gets quick money when he needs it. He's got his own ways of surviving, but he doesn't really need a lot. And he's not trying to pay a mortgage, keep a 16-year-old fed and clothed and the power on and everything else. Now, I think between when Willow and Tara were living there, plus the money that Giles gave her, like, I think she was floating for a while, and this is probably just enough to fill in the remaining money so that she's not getting further in debt. But she's going to be pretty stuck. Like, sooner or later, she's probably going to have to sell the house. But at this point in time, like, they're just surviving. Like, they're just maybe trying to keep their heads above water. And ultimately, yes, the Doublemeat Palace is not going to pay enough to do this, but she's a college dropout with no work experience. So what job do you get first? It usually is a shitty job like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, once you've got a bit of experience or some skills or something, you can usually maybe get something slightly better paying. But as Dawn pointed out, she kind of needs something with regular hours. I think it's in the next... it might be in As You Were, where she's talking to someone else who's like got management hopes or something. He's like, I'm going to night school, I'm getting my BA. It's like, she can't go to night school. She has a second job that doesn't pay her anything. Yeah. So it's just showing how stuck she really is. Yeah, but Spike's solution of like, yeah, I'll give you money, again, makes her dependent on him. And I like that she keeps the job at the end, because as much as you say, like, they're saying this isn't a good long-term solution, yeah, no, it probably isn't, but at least it's her making her own money.
Well, and it's her always providing for Dawn. It's always easier to find a job when you have a job. You know, it's like I like that it's just her making the active choice to be there at the end, and sort of the rest of the time it's just sort of being there because I have to. And I mean, it just gets back to the classic, you have a choice, you don't have a good choice, but you have a choice. She could have taken Spike up on his offer. Exactly. You know, exactly. There were other choices here, but she's not behaving in the beginning of the episode as though there are. She's behaving as trapped. And I think that that's supposed to be represented in the surrealism of the episode itself, and then everything goes normal by the end because she's made the choice.
I really like the point Lady Eternal made, though, comparing it to the Watchers Council, and that they see the Slayers are the tools, like, you know, we're waging a war, blah, 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 and you're the instrument by which we do it. And under capitalism, you do, as a worker, feel like you were just a freaking, like, pair of hands that they wish didn't have problems or need to take a sick day or have relatives who get, you know, you know what I mean? Like, when you have to take time off and they just want you to be there 24/7 whenever they want you to work or whatever it is. You're like, I'm a human being with actual shit that goes on in my actual freaking life. I'm not just here to, like, I don't just exist so that I can, like, do fucking work for you. But anyway, but that's how it makes you feel, I think, under, like, when you're a worker a lot of the time. Like, you just feel like they wish you didn't have anything else going on.
Well, I love that take. I do need to move on. Is there one last thing you want to throw out about the episode?
Yeah, okay. I have to say, though, I didn't really like the dumpster scene, and I guess I can see what you're all trying to say, but I've always felt when I watched the episode that sex with Spike was supposed to be the one thing that was, like, life-affirming, and when you see it, and it's so depressing, and and their bodies don't look like they could possibly be having sex. There's something going wrong.
Well, that occurred to me as well, but
she should be up higher. It doesn't look right. Anyway, whatever.
In the episode, talking about the reality of that sex.
The dailies are really funny of that scene, if anyone's seen it. They shot it a couple of different ways, and they're, like, laughing their asses off, and I think they didn't get a good enough take and they had to do it again. But I've been in jobs where, like, you hate them so much. Like, I got to a point in one of my jobs that I fucking hated it so much that I was doing risky shit. Not that exact risky shit, like having sex in the dumpster behind the workplace, but I was doing other stuff. So I get it. And to the point where it's like, but it should be something that's making you feel alive, because you feel so dead the rest of the time. And so that scene playing so sad and so depressing, when in the next episode, they're sort of showing that the sex is kind of life-affirming and she does keep going back. Or I've seen people say she's going back out of shame, not because she likes it. I don't know. I'm getting a little bit lost on that. But I expected the sex to be the thing that was enjoyable in the episode, and then it's not. It's super depressing, and I'm like, oh.
I think, though, that is the arc of their sexual relationship. I think that it's supposed to show that the effect that she's seeking from it is diminishing as time goes on. And that's this is sort of the beginning of that. Like, this situation she's in is so soul sucking that not even that thing that has been giving her some peace at this point is able to do it. But that's not always going to be the case, but it becomes the case more and more as we kind of go on. But I do need to go on. I appreciate you. Let me go over to Josh. Hello, Josh and Josh.
Ian, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Yes, this is 17-year-old Josh, who I believe this was the night of my first shift at Fazoli's, which is a fast food Italian restaurant chain, and all of the quality that implies. My mom sent me this picture upon request tonight. She took these pictures after my first work shift.
That's a great shot. So much promise.
My favorite part that I'd forgotten about is the name tag. Like, they really took us corporate seriously. So many other fast food joints don't even bother with a name tag.
Yeah.
This was technically my second job, because my first job was mowing lawns, because I was dating a high school senior when I was a high school junior, and she asked me to her prom, and I needed to be able to afford a tuxedo.
Look at you, big baller.
So listen, I put up flyers all over the high school, and I eventually got linked up with a realtor who brought me out whenever she wanted to show a house. And then I got this job, which paid better and more consistently, and I could work during like the winter. And I was trained on everything. I started off on the cash register. I did the steam line. I did the drive-through, and I did the dishwasher. And like, yeah, like the giant, yeah.
So how do you relate to the episode, having had the experience that you've had?
It's a fucking documentary. Like, Buffy gets a job at a fast food burger joint, and the film crew just apparently followed me around when I worked in fast food, because this is exactly what it was like.
It's so hard to make boring interesting. This episode reminds me a little bit of Epiphany, Reprise. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that's fascinating about Reprise is that Reprise is a deliberate anticlimax. So and that's the point.
Yes,
that's the point of Reprise, is that that he doesn't win, that Earth is hell. Earth is the home office. And it's fascinating that an anticlimax could feel meaningful, purposeful, and entertaining. And I feel the same way about this episode. This episode is about soul-sucking tedium and how to put that on screen in a way that is interesting. Seems to me like an unsolvable puzzle, but this episode, I think, does a marvelous job in solving the puzzle.
It's quite the accomplishment. They made, I think there's a trope on TV tropes that says mundane made awesome, and my favorite example of that is probably Hot Fuzz. Like, in the way that the police work is depicted so straight, but also is done with the same like CSI cuts. This is the mundane made horrifying. Like, this is turning the mundane into horror.
Into a horror film, yeah.
Yeah. And it's so successful. Like, the sweaty dude over the grill, like, that was me when I was making the sandwiches,
With the plug.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, not in my ear, but like, my skin was more oily than even a 17-year-old.
Oh, there you go. He's glistening because he's the grill man. All the oil.
He's also getting grilled.
I've heard that happen. Yeah, I've heard that happens when you work at Starbucks. Coffee is oilier than you think it is, and you
Yes,
just
it is.
smell like coffee all the time and deal with that. Anyway, this makes me want to
Yeah.
go hug some service people.
And I mean, Lauren is absolutely right. Like, it's such a dehumanizing experience.
Yeah.
For somebody who is trying to order a bowl of spaghetti and meatballs to take out their bad day on me while I'm just trying to make change at the cash register.
Yeah. People, how easily we forget that we are all human beings.
Yeah.
There's a I think I mentioned it in the guide somewhere. There was a video series more classic YouTube called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, and
Mhm.
there was a term from it that I really love. It was the idea was dictionary terms made up that should exist, and I can't remember what the term
Sonder.
was. Sonder, thank you, Sonder. The idea that the realization that you are only a supporting character in other people's stories, or that you are a supporting character in other people's stories, a light in a window they pass by at night. That you're not the main character.
I actually got to give a 20-minute workshop on customer service. It was a very basic customer service primer uh, at my now old job last month, and I used Sonder. Like, I used that as a foundation for like how to approach customer service and how to approach
Yeah.
customer interface and customer interactions.
Yeah, that was a profound one for me. Well, the first time I heard it, definitely that experience of like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's, the Double Meat Palace, and I mean that burger does look delicious. I don't blame
it
Xander
looks
one bit.
so good.
It looks so like, and they got the jumboest burger buns. Like, it's bigger than Xander. Like, he's having to use two hands,
Yeah.
and they got the greenest lettuce.
It's probably plastic for the sake of the shooting, but it was.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it looks delicious.
So in this episode, we also have a kind of a unique experience of like toxic people in your life. Like, we've got Spike, we've got Amy.
You'll have to
and
be more specific. This season of Buffy is toxic people all the way down.
everybody's toxic to some degree.
Amy, yeah.
Amy, Spike, and Halfrick.
Okay.
So I've had a theory rattling around in my brain for a little while now, that okay, so everybody in the show is Buffy in some form or fashion. Like, everybody in the main cast relates to Buffy
Yeah.
in some way.
They're a part of Buffy.
Mind, Heart, Spirit. Yet, Giles, Xander, and Willow. I think that Spike is Buffy's dark mirror, like pretty much the whole time that he is on the show.
Definitely created that way from School Hard.
And sticks with it. And I mean, especially upcoming in Dead Things. I think Dead Things really bears that out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Dead Thing scene is basically this year's Girl.
It is.
When
Buffy and Faith.
Faith, thank you. When Faith is punching her own face.
Yeah.
And calling herself a monster. That scene with Buffy punching Spike, you always hurt the ones you love.
Yeah, he represents her in that scene.
Yeah, I love that.
And so, Dawn obviously is Buffy's inner child. Buffy's like precious hope and optimism. So I've had the theory for a while now, if we consider that Buffy's relationship to Dawn is central to season 5 and to season 6. Buffy climbing out of the grave with Dawn in the season 6 finale is supposed to be her rediscovering her joy of life.
Coming back to life, yeah.
Yeah. Then I think that Willow and Xander's relationships to Tara and Anya reflect Buffy's relationship to Dawn.
Okay.
And it kind of makes Tara and Anya
like their reason for living. Like, when Tara dies, Willow loses all. Is that what you mean?
Very similar, yeah. But also, if you follow any number of episode plots where Tara where Tara and Willow or Xander and Anya are having some kind of a tiff in their relationship, Buffy and Dawn are also usually at spicy odds. I mean, you just did it with tough love.
I'm following. I'm following.
So Spike is obviously being toxic to Buffy in this episode, and
Sure.
he is her addiction.
Fostering dependence.
Amy is obviously being toxic to Willow in this episode, and literalizes that by dosing her.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting. Thinking about this episode, I'm wondering if this episode should have come one later. Because there are indications in this episode that this is Buffy having to get over her feelings about Spike. By the parallels that you're talking about, Amy dosing Willow, and despite that, Willow saying no to her and shutting the door at the end of the episode. The way we read Buffy's face in the dumpster scene is like, this is no longer working. This is not. And Willow is dosed during the episode, but turns down the magic, chooses not to use. She's fighting the magic the entire time. And I think we're supposed to read that parallel with Buffy and Spike's interaction in the dumpster being sort of nonplussed and uninterested, not interested. However, there is sort of a fallback in the next episode, in terms of their. I suppose it's fair in that it's not that pat, and sort of quitting things requires a run up,
and multiple swings.
Multiple swings. But it's interesting that reading does make this placement feel maybe an episode or two too early.
So Halfrick talking to Anya about her relationship with Xander, and specifically the part where Hallie is like, "Who told you that you were hard to love?" To me, is a direct reflection of Dawn's arc and relationship with Buffy this season. And so I think that we can read that the Hallie and Anya conversation is an external reflection of the inner turmoil that Dawn is experiencing this season. So that she is feeling unlovable this season. She's feeling like Buffy doesn't want to be around her, doesn't want to be with her. Would rather be dead and then be with her, or upcoming and dead things. Would rather be in prison than be with her. Older and far away, would rather be away from her, like all that kind of stuff. So, and that's because I agree with you that I think the original intention was that we were supposed to like sympathize with Xander and not necessarily
I think
like, you go girl, when Hallie is talking. But
I think the humor and the fact that Hallie is a demon, and as was mentioned, the manipulative nature of vengeance demons, I sort of all plays together that I think originally they were just kidding. And we, as we've sort of reinterpreted the show, have gone, oh, but there's a lot of truth there. And I'm fine with that. I think that I don't believe that author vision is the truth of the show. It is what we collectively experience and decide as fans and consumers of art, right?
I mean, this episode was written by a woman.
Yeah.
So like, that may be less of a retroactive reinterpretation, more of a us finally uncovering the truth.
Well,
the artistic truth.
There's so many.
Wrote Superstar as well, and that missed that twins rape thing as well.
She did. Yeah, that's right. She did write. Espen. Well, I mean, and of course, the name put on the episode isn't always the person who wrote it entire. Sometimes it's 70% of the episode. Sometimes it is what it is. But yeah, and I think sort of the what the trio represent in this season kind of plays into that thing that you're describing as well. So yeah, really interesting. And I love this episode though. I think it's so.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think the lady penis head is
lady penis head. That's
her
cosplay name.
It should be. I think that she is as much Spike as she is Warren.
Sure. Well, I mean, yeah,
we're about to get to dead things.
Yeah, the monsters are all the way down.
Yeah.
In this one, it's interesting how it all lines up. But I really love it. All right, man. Is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
So if you pause on the drive-through menu when Willow is out there talking into it, those meal deals are insane. You can get a double meat patty, you can get biscuits and gravy, you can get a chicken fried steak, and you can get a soda for $5.19.
I wonder where they shot it. It looks for some
It is
reason I
like
kept
20
thinking.
years old. 20 years
Yeah,
ago, but still.
but who's eating biscuits and gravy with their burger for dinner?
uh, I it feels like it feels like a Wendy's to me for some reason. But all right, friends.
I like Wendy's.
I will. I think there was some question about whether or not we should take a break on the 21st if people are going out of town. I'll just put a survey up at the beginning of this week, and make sure you go and click yes or no, and we'll just do a vote. So if there's enough yeses to skip the 21st, then in 4 weeks we'll be doing birthday, and then followed up with Dead Things in mid-late January. And Jack, you should vote.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Russell.
You know that last comment Josh said? Have any of you ever seen the movie Terminal with Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The guy that's stuck at the airport? Okay. You tell me where you can get a cheeseburger, a french fry, a salad for $4.70.
Nowhere.
Not especially not in the airport.
Not
No.
Where the prices are jacked up because they have to.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do have to ask Josh this. I apologize. It's the dishwasher, Josh.
Yes.
When Buffy said blood and strange smells, did you not immediately flash back to the giant dishwasher at the restaurant?
Because it was an Italian joint, we had a lot of marinara and meat sauce. It would have been difficult to distinguish.
The giant conveyor belt dishwasher in the place I worked, the smell never came out of your clothes. Didn't matter what. Nothing. It never came out of the uniforms. Oh my God.
Let me tell you, the middle-aged Spanish-speaking woman who was our head dishwasher, she ran a tight ship. Like, that was the cleanest area of the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
She also brought us tamales for Christmas.
Oh, nice.
There you go. We did not get those.
Ian,
Fazoli's is one of the best, cheapest pastas and cheese sticks place I have ever eaten at, by the way.
You're not wrong.
All right, I'm gonna wrap us up so that I can go finish a video and put a video on the YouTube channel for the first time in a few months.
Yes.
So hopefully you'll have Spiral to watch in an hour or two, probably 2. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, thanks, Ian.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.